guys. Thanks for coming and having a little listen to what I have to say this morning. So I think, just to start off, I think one of the biggest challenges when with pregnancy is people really seem to ask that question, like, what on earth should I actually eat? Yes, there's a baby growing inside of you. It's a big change in the body. You know, whether or not you think you eat healthily to begin with or not at all, you know, there's something going on inside of you. Everything's going to change. And of course, diet comes under that umbrella as well. So what I really want to focus on in terms of what dietary intake, what we're actually eating, is nutrient density. So compare like a slice of bread to some kale, for example. You know, your bread is really filling, it's quick, it's easy. It's higher in kilojoules than it is in nutrients. Yes, it has carbohydrate. Yes, it has glucose. But we want to try and maximize our exposure and our intake of a whole host of vitamins and minerals. So, you know, that's where you compare that bread to the kale, for example, and, you know, it's got full of vitamins, full of nutrients. May not fill us up as fast, but it's higher in nutrition, and that's what our growing babies and our growing bodies need. I think really a huge topic of concern also, especially in that first trimester, is nausea. And there are a few things we can focus on to actually avoid nausea, little practices we can do, foods we can eat that help reduce our bodies, you know, help reduce those nauseous feelings. And there are certain food groups like, say, carbohydrates that really, really help reduce that nausea. So again, I'll use the bread analogy. While it may be the only thing that you feel like reaching for in this stage, you still do need to focus on the nutrient density, like I mentioned before. And I think one of the best ways to combat that nausea is to just eat good quality carbohydrates. So instead of reaching for the bread or the rice or the pasta, you know, your roasted root vegetables, you know, cook them up with some nice olive oil and rosemary and salt and things like that. And also things like fresh fruits and vegetables. You know, anything that's colourful indicates the amount of nutrition that's in it. It's anti-inflammatory, it's full of antioxidants, and it's just going to make us feel better than just reaching for those processed, refined, simple carbohydrates like bread and rice and pasta. In addition to carbohydrate, vitamin B6 has been really well researched in preventing nausea. So when we think about foods rich in vitamin B6, we look towards anything that's high in protein, so like meat or eggs or dairy or legumes, leafy green vegetables, also really rich in vitamin B6. And focusing on these kind of foods can really make us feel a lot better during that first stage when nausea is at play. Additionally, things like ginger are really helpful. Ginger is a carminative herb, which means it's going to have that effect in the body. It's going to calm us down. It's also going to help with our digestion, and it's quite stimulating. So that's a really important spice that to, you know, throw into soups and smoothies, into your stir fry. That can be really helpful. And on the note of smoothies and things like that, I often find with my patients that drinks are far more tolerated than whole meals. You might feel happier to sip on something rather than sit down with a knife and fork cutting into some meat and veggies and all of that. So I think, yeah, things like smoothies where you can throw your greens and avocado, fruit, nuts and seeds, and it's like, you know, coconut water for hydration, that kind of thing, that can be really helpful. And it's something that you can just whip up in a couple of minutes, take with you on the go. So that can be a nice idea. And in the same vein, soups and smoothies and soups and stews and broths are really helpful also because they are really nutrient dense, especially when we're using like good quality bones to make our soups and that kind of thing. We can also throw a whole bunch of vegetables and brightly coloured things into these types of meals when we wouldn't be so inclined to you know, eat into a whole capsicum. We can throw it into a soup and blend it up and make sure we're getting all of the nutrition from that as well. Balancing blood sugar levels is a key concern as well. I mean, I'm sure we're all familiar with that incredible sugar high and then immediately crash that follows after we eat something really sweet and sugary. And it's just as important when we're not pregnant, but especially when we're pregnant, we want to keep those levels stable, meet somewhere in the middle of that sugar high and sugar crash. So a few ways to do that is to, whenever we're eating something that's very rich in sugar or carbohydrates, so say, you know, whether it be fruit or whether it be bread or rice or pasta or potatoes. Consume those foods with a source of fat or protein, and that actually helps our body to metabolize and break down that, and the release of the sugar from that food into our body is a lot nicer and helps keep us stable. So a nice example of that is, when we're having something fruity like a banana, have it with some almond butter or some peanut butter, and that will really help reduce or slow down the release of sugar from that food. Cinnamon really works really nicely in this way as well. It helps, as it says up here, it aids in the release of glucose, so making sure we don't feel that crash and burn. Fiber is really effective in this way as well, and that's the beauty of fruit and vegetables. Yes, they are carbohydrate rich. Yes, banana is sugary. Yes, watermelon is sugary, but it's full of fiber, and it's not going to create those sugar highs and crashes. So that's a really important one. I just want to focus on a few key nutrient considerations during this important time, and I just want to preface this by saying this is a huge topic. We don't have that long, but we're going to kind of sink our teeth into it as best we can. So to start off, protein, regardless of how you choose to eat, how you choose to live your life, everyone's number one concern is protein. So it's no surprise that people are also concerned about your protein intake during pregnancy. Increasing protein at this time is definitely important. It's going to help our body do a number of things. So things like manage our nausea, things like maintain our energy levels. And this is an important one because when we eat protein-rich foods, those foods actually break down into what we call amino acids. And these amino acids are the building blocks of tissues and muscles in our body. And, tissues and muscles, that's also what creates a baby. So increasing that protein intake is going to increase the amount of amino acids there to help your baby grow and develop. Amino acids are also what help control our energy levels. So they help our Krebs cycle, which is our body's energy cycle, to actually spin and create energy. So eating protein is also going to help maintain our energy, keep our energy high. Pregnancy and breastfeeding, they're quite a draining times. So we need to make sure that these types of foods that we are actually increasing. Protein intake is also going to help balance your cravings and reduce cravings for all kinds of delicious things. Definitely, you should eat chocolate and you should eat ice cream and you should eat cheese and you should have the things that you are craving. But if we are eating some protein, we're not going to feel like we have cravings all the time that we can't satisfy. So good quality fats here are crucial as well. So things like our oily fish, our avocado, olive oil, nuts and seeds are all really beautiful sources of fat that are going to do a number of roles in the body. So number one, they're going to ensure that our body can efficiently produce and release hormones. Pregnancy is a crazy time. There are hormones running freely all around the body. If we're eating good quality fats, they're going to help those hormone levels remain stable. Fats also help our bodies absorb vitamins and minerals. So when we think about something like carrots or something leafy and green like parsley, these types of foods are rich in vitamins A and K, and vitamins A and K are actually fat soluble. So we can't harness the goodness of these vitamin A and K from these foods unless there is a fat source present to help us digest and absorb it. So when you're roasting your pumpkin or carrots, throw some olive oil, some coconut oil on it. If you're having a leafy green salad, add some avocado, add some flaxseed oil, that kind of thing. Actually sounds pretty delicious. It doesn't sound too much like a chore. Fats also offer our body anti-inflammatory benefits. So including these types of things in our diet are going to help control our body's inflammatory processes and ensure that, other than the inflammation of outwards of our body from the baby growing, all of our body can deal with inflammation, and this is going to really help protect us during times of sickness and that kind of thing. Good quality fats are really crucial for quality growth and development as well. Carbohydrate, I've touched on this already, but carbohydrate and glucose, which is the sugar form that our body takes from eating carbohydrates, are actually what fuels our body and fuels our brain, namely. Considering all the changes that go in our body, the changes in mood and fluctuations and changes in energy, we want to make sure we have good quality carbohydrate and good quality and a lot of glucose flowing throughout the body so that it can go straight to our brain and provide us with that instant energy. They're a really usable source of energy as well. Glucose is our body's energy currency, so it's really easily used and absorbed. And carbohydrates can help also reduce our cravings like protein can. Zinc is probably the number one deficiency within pregnancy and breastfeeding. But it's a really important micronutrient to take note of because it can actually help improve the efficacy of our contractions and slow down our labor time if we are consuming good amount of zinc throughout the pregnancy. So things like oysters, things like nuts and seeds, especially pumpkin seeds, legumes, lentils and beans, that kind of thing. Ensuring that you're, throwing these into your salads or having some pumpkin seeds as a snack will just help to top up our zinc levels. And postpartum as well, zinc is actually fantastic for healing wounds. So that's going to help our body heal after the birth as well. Iron, we actually have increased requirements for iron during pregnancy and breastfeeding because iron plays a whole host of important roles, but namely, it helps facilitate the transport of oxygen throughout the body. And of course, we're not only providing oxygen for ourselves, but also the baby as well. And that's why we have that increased need. And it also supports the body's increase in blood mass due to the placenta that feeds the baby through pregnancy. And so we really do need to make sure our iron is in check, and we are including some of our iron-rich sources of food into the diet every single day. So, red meat, legumes, things like lentils are really high in iron. And a really important tip to note is, especially when we're consuming iron sources that aren't derived from animals. So if we want to eat, if we have some leafy greens and some legumes and that kind of thing, which are all high in iron, consuming them with a source of vitamin C actually helps increase the absorption of the iron from those foods. But iron is also found in some places you probably wouldn't know to look, like dried figs and prunes and blackstrap molasses are also really high in iron. So, throwing some chopped up nuts and seeds and dried fruit like figs onto your bowl of yogurt as a snack and with a drizzle of blackstrap molasses can also, you rest assured that you're increasing your iron availability during that time too. Folic acid and choline, these are two really important micronutrients, especially during the first trimester. We have increased requirements for these two micronutrients because they help to prevent neural tube defects in utero. So our sources of choline are things like cruciferous vegetables like Brussels sprouts and broccoli. Our sources of folic acid are things like leafy greens and nuts and seeds. Vitamin D is a really common deficiency in pregnancy also. It's crucial for the development of our baby's brain and also immune system. And it's really interesting. Deficiency of vitamin D is associated with a lower birth weight in babies and is also sees a higher incidence in things like allergies and food intolerances later on. So ensuring we're getting good quality sources of vitamin D through the diet, things like fish and eggs, but also that we're getting out into the sunshine, 20 minutes a day, like 4 times a week is really crucial. Probiotics. I feel like I've thrown a bit of a spanner in the works by throwing this one in here. It's so hugely talked about in the media. And that's for good reason, Our body is essentially made up of more bacteria than anything else. So we really need to make sure that we're encouraging the growth of good bacteria rather than bad bacteria in the body. And just as crucial as it is for us as the baby's mother, it is really crucial for the baby also. And in fact, our baby's gut or microbiome actually starts developing from the moment of conception, and it's largely informed by mum's gut. So preconceptually, if you are considering having a baby, ensuring that you are taking a probiotic or including some of those probiotic rich foods in your diet can really help. The birth canal is also the place where a baby gets a huge inoculation of good quality bacteria. So that's often where the debate begins between natural delivery and cesarean sections. But regardless of birth, your baby's gut is actually developing from day one of its life, and it's specifically influenced by the breast milk that mum can provide. So if mum is enjoying probiotic-rich foods or taking a probiotic, that's actually going to help with the baby's development of his or her microbiome as well. So probiotics have actually been really well studied, and if we are increasing our probiotic-rich foods or taking a probiotic, it can actually have quite a few positive outcomes. So things like less allergies and food intolerances in babies, things like preventing atopic conditions like eczema and dermatitis and even asthma are lowered if our probiotics are well touched on. They're also crucial for the development of your baby's immune system. And as we know, our baby's immune system doesn't really start developing until 6 months, but 2/3 of the immune system actually resides in the gut. And of course, a baby's born with a gut. So if we're consuming those probiotic-rich foods and babies getting them through breast milk, then that's going to help and favorably influence baby's immune system later on too. So I just wanted to pop up here a few of the strains that have been really well researched with probiotics and preventing those things like eczema and dermatitis. So you've got your Lactobacillus rhamnosus, Bifidobacterium, and Acidophilus. And Acidophilus is actually the strain that's found in yogurt. And in addition to yogurt, we can also include some of our fermented foods like sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha. These things are also really rich in probiotics and really delicious, so give them a try. My next section, I just wanted to talk about ways in which to boost breast milk supply. So there are certain foods that we can include in our diet that actually help to increase our amount of breast milk available to the baby. It's really important to note, though, that prior to doing this, you do need to make sure you actually are breastfeeding regularly first. If you're not, it can actually cause things like painful conditions like mastitis, that kind of thing. So you do need to make sure you are breastfeeding regularly before you begin including these types of foods. In addition to that, we really need to make sure that we're well hydrated. Breast milk is essentially water and fat. So as I mentioned before, we need those good quality fats. We also need a large amount of water. And a lot of the times, women can actually be really dehydrated, and that can really affect the amount of breast milk they're producing, and can often spark the concern that they aren't producing enough, and then baby's hungry. So at least 3 litres of water a day is what we need. So galactagogues are the interesting name given to these type of herbs, and although it sounds like something out of Star Trek, it's real. So things like fenugreek, alfalfa sprouts or alfalfa seeds, fennel, ginger, nettle, all these types of foods or herbs and spices we can include in our food, that are either in our food or brew as a tea, which you'll see in a minute. These are going to increase our breast milk supply, and the name galactagogue actually is, as it sounds, like that glug, glug, glug noise, is what it does in the body. It helps increase that breast milk flow. So this is just a recipe for a breast milk boosting tea that you might like to brew. There's no caffeine in this, so you can certainly brew up like a litre and replace a litre of your drinking water with something like this, and that's going to help to boost the amount of breast milk that you have available. Before I finish up, I just wanted to leave you with a few sort of tips that I have on thinking ahead and planning well postpartum, and also before baby's arrival. It's a difficult and challenging time, and you're certainly going to have less time once baby comes along. So always make double. It sounds silly, and you probably think that you're making too much, but it always comes in handy. Preparing nutrient snacks in advance, like before baby's arrival. So making like a batch of bliss balls where you can throw in a whole bunch of nuts and seeds and some nice cacao and dried fruit and that kind of thing. They just make these simple grab and go snacks that you can have wherever you are. Investing in a blender might sound weird, but I just find blending things is such a fantastic way to increase the amount of nutrition in your diet. You can, in 5 minutes, you can make up a really healthy smoothie with fruit and vegetables, some nuts and seeds, some almond milk, that kind of thing. And that it's just instant nutrition, instant energy. And aside from smoothies, they're great for making things like dips and spreads and that kind of thing as well. Saving yourself time by pre-cutting and pre-washing your vegetables, storing them in containers in the fridge so that they're ready to grab and make a salad on the go, or, throw some carrot sticks in your bag, that kind of thing. It's just going to really help save you time. It might sound silly, but it's helpful. Always carry emergency snacks. That's a favorite. Especially when we're breastfeeding, we really do need more energy. You have to think of breastfeeding as like a sport. Yet you need more hydration and you need more food, not only for you but for baby as well. So always carry snacks with you wherever you are. And that's kind of all I have to say this morning. I will be over at the HelloFresh stand, E30, if you have any questions. I'm the nutritional consultant at HelloFresh, so come along and ask me any questions or queries you may have. Thanks for listening.